In the opening minute of Poncho, the entire world is caught in flames. Sometime later, a little robot wearing a poncho wakes up in a lab, and your journey to set things right begins. Poncho's world is now one that is home to only robots, and many remaining structures are now overtaken by plant life. There's some fantastic pixel art in Poncho, and it's made only better with the use of multiple parallax layers. The added depth gives the levels so much more detail, and in general makes the game far more interesting. Specifically, I love that moment that a little flying robot fish, complete with a top hat, appeared just swimming in the background. In Poncho, the levels wrap around on themselves, allowing you to take whichever direction you desire. You can also switch between different parallax layers to progress, solve puzzles, and find secrets. The ability to switch between layers isn't entirely new. We've seen Mutant Mudds and Kirby Triple Deluxe, and many others do it before, but it does at least make the level design a little more interesting. Unfortunately, the layer switching doesn't exactly lead to more interesting mechanics. The game mostly relies on platforms that switch between layers on a timer, and rarely introduces anything more. It can also be difficult to tell if there's a platform in the background that you can land on. The game does a decent job at changing transparency on certain layers to help you see better, but there were many times that I found myself dying because it wasn't clear if the layer I switched to had a platform or not. Thankfully, the game instantly respawns you on the last piece of solid ground that you stood on before dying. In each stage, you'll collect gems and solve various platforming puzzles to collect keys. Keys can also be purchased through a robot vendor with any gems that you collect. These keys are then used to bypass gates in each level. As you progress, you'll also be granted a stomp ability to reveal hidden areas, and the ability to bring robots back from the dead. Bringing robots back serves as an interesting side objective and introduces you to a pretty important character in the story, but the stomp ability felt really underutilized. In fact, the stomp ability actually just kind of feels forgotten, other than maybe 2 to 3 times throughout the entirety of the game. In the later half of the game, I ran into a couple segments that involved vertical platforming along the shifting platforms. This became really frustrating. The platforms tend to shift at different speeds throughout the game. You don't have a lot of time to study what speed that they're going at, and typically one wrong move will send you right back at the very beginning. I found myself often fighting against these shifting platforms and at the same time just losing interest in the game. Poncho's world is colorful, there's visual depth and great music that helps bring it to life. Unfortunately, the platforming doesn't live up to its potential. The shifting platforms quickly become tedious and the game relies far too heavily on them. At the same time, I found myself enjoying a good chunk of my time with Poncho. It's still an interesting world to explore, and the robots often have thought-provoking things to say about the calamity. There's just not enough to hold that interest throughout the entirety of the game.